Hey, sexy. It's me, Doc. And I'm finally the world champion marker. Yes. I can't believe it. There's really no words. It's going to be a main talking point of this entire video. Um, I came into this video with a lot of bullet points that I wanted to cover. I just don't think I'm going to get through them all. And I know that this is not a video that I can prepare for. But the good news is that I'm the world champion, man. Like I said, I'm a very poetic person by nature, so I had to use this shirt from the 54 vlog, the first video I ever made. This is the exact same shirt. Now, the glasses, on the other hand, I don't think they're the exact same ones, but they're the same kind of glasses. So yeah, you know, and I do think of like all those like, items, like or shrines, I guess, that I can relate to myself that have followed me through the years. You know, the Bugs Life poster. Um, what else? Just a fair amount of stuff too, like and that sort of thing. But that's besides the point. Um, I really gotta say, how does one go from stepping from where I came from to the Mario Kart DS champion? And I mean, where do we begin? Well, I'm gonna drop the lore, I guess. It's gonna come out eventually. My name is my name is Cole Edwards. That's who I am. Um, if you really want to know who I am, I'm from a very small community uh, in Newfoundland called Howley. Population of less than 200. Um, it's crazy. I wanted don that the non-PRB capital of the world. I knew that if I wasn't champion, I wasn't gonna be able to merit that. But I guess it's like now I can, and that's crazy because not only that, I knew that there was a lot more writing on this than just myself. Like I wanted to do this for Waz, for Survey, for Utter, who helped me a lot behind the scenes. You know, putting Newfoundland on the map as a big Mario Kart place. Um, there's probably more I'm forgetting, but above all else, is just for personal um, fulfillment. You know, uh, the Mario Kart DS community um, is the only place that takes my genuine, authentic self seriously, right? And like outside of the community and inside, like I'm the same person. Like I don't put on a character for these videos. This is genuinely who I am. Like right now, this is the most, you know, I guess authentic version of myself that I can be because, man, to be quite honest with you, me to be inauthentic, it just burns so much energy, man. So that is why, you call it laziness or whatever, but hey, it is what it is. Um, so yeah, no, like in the real world, like growing up, like I'm me, and I'm a happy person. I'm not sad or depressed or nothing, but I be me, being like, but again, um, for whatever reason, I was never really taken serious, um, and that did put a chip on my shoulder. Like I'm not gonna lie, it was like, you know, you can be inauthentic and be taken seriously, but if I try to be myself, um, it's like I'm looked at weird or shunned or just flat out just not even given a second thought. And I guess that played on my mind. But once I got into this community in 2019, it was like, wow, you know, you play this game that you love, you're passionate about, and it's like you meet these people who are pretty much like you in a lot of ways. And it's like, yeah, it's really accepting, and I was accepting of all of them. And just, I can't say enough to the community how thankful I am, because in a lot of ways, and I'm going to get into the deeper stuff here, Mario Kart DS gave me a second lease on my life, I guess. And like, that's not a exaggeration. And this is like a lot of stuff that I haven't really revealed to the community yet. But I had a big absence from the game from late 2022 to early 2023. The reason for that was because I had psychosis, um, substance induced. I was a teenager, man. I was in grade 12. Um, Tried acid, LSD, so to speak, in quotations. I don't even know what it was, because I got it off the street, from shady source. Who knows what's what nowadays? Um, but I ended up getting substance induced psychosis from it, and it was brutal because I couldn't function. I couldn't do anything. I was so paranoid. I could not even attend school. Eventually, I got out of school. I didn't graduate high school properly, but I did it online. I finished school online in April month, and everyone else, they had 2 extra months, so I was woohoo or whatever. Um, but like, I was left with a lot of stuff that was left unfinished, I guess you could say. And like, that whole time period for me was interesting, to say the least. I guess, I would keep back and forth with community members, and like, obviously not being myself. um, but like I said, I overcame psychosis, you know to not only be here now, but also be very coherent and being able to recall what I went through. I'm just so proud of myself. you know all the external validation, people can say, you know what, you're nothing but a crazy fucking deranged psychotic fucking bastard, for having something simple as a mental illness. As far as I'm concerned, people that are like that, they're not educated, man. And I don't want this video to be a PSA for mental health, but like I said, you know, it affects everyone. And if you're not affected by it directly, indirectly, you either know someone you're close to or someone within your family, or it could be something genetic within your family that you avoided, luckily, that sort of thing. Um, and so, yeah, but like, man, I was hospitalized for psychosis, and I can vividly remember playing Baby Park in a hospital bed in February of 2023, because I spent the entire month of February of 2023 in a hospital, the Western Memorial Regional Hospital in Corner Brook. That's where I was. It was good because it was a complete reset for me, like my reality or whatever. Um, but other than that, like, uh, it's a little bit spooky that that's what it had to come to. Um, but like, I got out of the hospital after that restart, and bam, I was back to playing Mario Kart, doing what I loved. Not really having a care in the world at that point. Me and my stepfather ended up cleaning up the car dumps with this crowd that came into Howley, and just repurposed them or whatnot, bringing them back to their natural state, I guess, and because just to get the garbage out of them because they were closing up or whatnot. And that was really, really nice. It was a really nice memory for me and my stepfather. Um, you know, and that's it. Like, it was what it was, and like, here I was, a couple months, like, back in September, not a care in the world, living my best life, living the dream. I had just gotten the world record on Luigi Circuit 1 3 lap. I remember that. And, but come February month, I'm in a hospital bed. Um, you know, not even really sure what's going on in the real world. And, you know, it's like I say, if you're ever going through anything, get help. Um, any like professional help, um, take it, because the worst thing you can do is not get help. I would be more mad at a person if they didn't get help. Uh, you know, and like even in 2023, late 2023, I ended up going up to a community called Happy Valley Goose Bay. I worked in a grocery store up there for a brief period. Um, but come like January, February, I started to really feel different, and like really feeling not good, but I would stay up late and this would become a habit, right? And I eventually I went like a day or two without sleeping, but I didn't feel tired. And that just ignited something that just completely spiraled into what is now bipolar. I'm bipolar, pretty sure I'm bipolar 1. Um, and like I said, I'm open about mental health. Like, I feel like we all should be. And this is kind of why I wanted to title this video Vulnerability is the biggest two-way street in life, because everybody has stuff that they've been through that they're vulnerable about, but they just don't talk about because they fear stigma. And everybody fears stigma. Um, I don't believe in stigma, because I'm the type of person that says if you're going to criticize people for something they've been through, you're just an ignorant person that is not educated, and I'll stick by that. um, Mental health is the one thing that society is actually, luckily, becoming more open and accepting about, like, genuinely. Not to disrespect like the LGBTQ community or whatnot, but like I can see like how people think that, like, yes, society is kind of forcing everybody to accept it, but this is not force. Like, this is like everybody's like, okay, we know now this is a real thing. Let's talk. So, you know, yeah, that was my big absence too in 23 and 24 for a bit, because I was manic, man. And I mean, like, I don't know, like some of it was good too in a way. Like, I would have these manic episodes and these like hypomanic episodes, and like you listen to music, right? Because bipolar is a mood disorder, and music affects mood, and this is like heightened, and it's crazy. Um, I would go for walks and stuff, and like, I mean, it was not good. Even the stuff I was doing when I was psychotic was probably way crazier. Uh, different parts of your brain don't work, or like are not as active. So for me, my amygdala, I feel, was just completely shut off, because like I would go for walks and that, nighttime alone too, because Howley is a very wooded area. And, you got things like moose and stuff, and I mean, I even walked across ice on the lake once when it was not safe and that, and I mean, yeah, like I can revisit all that, and just, when you really think of everything that I've went through there, and it's like, wow, I'm pretty surprised that I'm still here. Now, I didn't get here without help. I'm not gonna take credit for getting here alone. I got help. So I'm gonna end the mental health segment of this video by saying, if anyone out there needs someone to talk to, I can be that person. Like, I will keep everything completely confidential, but the best person that you can talk to is a professional. I mean, I've overcome psychosis. I'm not a psychosis survivor. I'm a psychosis thriver. Bipolar, I live with it every day of my life, and I will till the day I die. I've accepted it. I take medications. I've accepted that. Is that a big deal? Well, it shouldn't be, you know. But stigma exists, and hey, if I'm putting myself out there to be criticized for me being me, I did that my whole life. I'm a bipolar person. How does that make me different from anyone else? So that's the end of that segment. Um, but yeah, for Mario Kart, if I didn't like look, because at the time I remember when I first joined, I was in Xbox at the time, and Xbox One had YouTube, and I looked in on the YouTube one day, and Summoning Salt, his Choco Mountain video introduced me to speedrunning in general. Like, not even just Mario Kart, because the first video his I watched was the Choco Mountain video. And it was crazy. Like, I saw these people doing these amazing things, and it's like, wow, holy crap. It's like, I love Mario Kart. I'm like to play games competitively. Howley doesn't have fast internet speeds, so I never was able to play online multiplayer games. This is an offline thing. This would be awesome for me to get into. Um, Mario Kart 64, I loved it, but I didn't own it. So that's what got me into Mario Kart DS. I even went out of my way to install a ROM on the homebrew channel on my Wii to maybe work around rules, but nah. I never got into Mario Kart 64. Um, well, I did. I'm on the players page for it. But no. Um, yeah, in regards to that, um, so Mario Kart DS was the next best thing. I owned it. I knew there wouldn't be any rules around hardware issues, and I started from there. So I ended up being mentored by this person named Andrew Aluzzi, who goes by the username Waz. He went by the username Farco back then. And me and Waz, we had this really special connection from the beginning. It was like, this is a guy that, you know, he sticks up for people that he's close to, and he don't mind being himself. And I think that's why the two of us kind of bonded, because we shared that same sentiment of we are who we are, and we're not going to change for anyone else. And like in this whole saga of me doing this, and especially coming towards it, because Waz mentored me, I mean, down all the way down to community stuff, general Mario Kart racing techniques, mechanics, and that, and we were just playing. And not only that, like just in life and that too, like even outside of Mario Kart, man, we would just talk about stuff, fun stuff. Bro would be going to like Six Flags and that, and I mean that was so cool, just to see him, and like now he got his drumming gig too, so it's really good for him. Um, yeah, no, and like a lot of what was riding on this too was I wanted to become champion because it would vindicate Waz, because you know in the Mario Kart Superstar community, Waz is not fully accepted. Um, the Super Circuit community, that's where he's, that's his main forte is Mario Kart Super Circuit. But like to pretty much be ostracized by your own community is sad. Nobody wants to be ousted by people, and I literally agree with that. Like, I wouldn't want to be in that position. So I own it to him to kind of say, you know what, I'm going to do this to prove to all those people that you really missed out on something that this guy has, because what Waz may not have in playing ability, I can go on record and say that Andrew Aluzzi is probably the greatest, if not one of the best mentors for new players that Mario Kart has ever seen. you know And I wanted myself to be on that track record. I know Robert McKinnon is somewhat a part of that track record too. Um, and I'm sure there's a lot of others that I'm missing. But the point I'm trying to make is Waz now has vindication and stuff that he's deserved, and stuff that's been a long time coming. I know he is a controversial figure, but if you can look past the controversy for at least a minute and kind of take in and be like, okay, you know what, this guy, he's he's definitely someone to be taken serious, at least in those type of ways. So, you know, Waz, if you're watching this, you know, salute to you. Now, moving on, next person, Surviv, Louis Vivres. People might find it annoying because I talk with Surviv a lot. I really like Surviv. I think Surviv's story is awesome. Um, yeah, you know, him and Abel are pretty much the two only golden era Carters still left, you know, actively playing. Sad as it is, you know, I hate to see those classic era players kind of fade away, but you know, life happens and people get older and the game changes. But Survey will chime in every now and then, but our relationship really blossomed during the time that I made that video about him. You know, I heard his story and like what he had went through and like even stuff in his real life and that, and like Survey, I would say to me is more of a life mentor now, like in regards to, I'm not going to put out any of his business, but like mental health stuff and that sort of thing. And you know, the man has like really taught me a lot about um, humbleness and selflessness, and not, and have that you can be happy without having any ego at all, pretty much. You know, Survey seldom gets any recognition, um, or even acknowledgement from anybody, and he goes on, and not only does he go on, he doesn't complain, right? You know, it's one thing to not care, but it's one another thing to not complain. Um, so I look up to Louis in those ways. Um, and again, another one too is Matt Oder. Matt Oder really helped me with coaching in that. Like I would always go to Matt and be like, "Yo, what's your opinion on this track that I'm playing right now? I know you have a better time than me. You're probably a track specialist at this one, Waluigi Pinball. Um, what's your advice?" So Matt would always give me little tips, tricks, and all that stuff. But the reason that I went to Oder for a lot of this stuff, because me and Oder share a similar play style in the fact that like we play more so off of like simple instincts rather than like statistical, technical, like, you know, the ways of playing about it. Like we're kind of like, how do I describe it in an analogy? It's like your old stock clock and like and little notepad rather than like actual like fucking simulations and stuff like that. So, you know, we are kind of older in that ways, I guess. Or me, I guess I'd be a throwback kind of guy in my, you know, training style, because I was never a person to track splits. I was never a person to keep track of anything like that because I'm not an organized person. Um, and that stuff wastes a lot of time. Like, I'm not even gonna lie to you. And you know, I always enjoyed the fact that I was a very simple player. You know, I didn't overcomplicate things. I knew what I could do and what I kind of didn't really know, and that's a big thing for players to know. Know what you're good at and know what you're not so good at. And the big part in that is, what is the things that you're good at that can kind of help you get better and strengthen things that you're not so good at, right? Because you can't make your strengths better with your weaknesses. It's got to be the other way around. Um, and I did that too for a while. And it really wasn't until um, last year that I started to kind of really tune into videos and see what higher ranked times were doing that I wasn't, and like things that I could implement or change um, that could save time. You know, um, the organic strat faded out. It's not totally gone, but like I said, I'm sure that there's a little bit of organicness in like those my times now. I like to think so anyway. Um, but yeah, no. Um, who else? Quantum. Yeah, like I share like a really strong camaraderie with Quantum because the two of us came up at the same time in the Renaissance era of Mario Kart players, DS players. Um, you know, I owe it to you, man. You're a great dude. You're you're my best friend from our era in the community, and you always will be. You know, there's no denying that. The two of us has gone through a lot together. Kind of knew the same people in and out all the time, and you know, someone to talk to, and someone to really trust and lean on. That man is very good, very knowledgeable, very rational, and he's fun to be around. So, thank you, Quantum, for being you. That's all I can say. Um, who else? I think of other people that really made me feel good, cheered me on over the years, like Mikey and Master Leo, um, Stefan, somewhat. Yeah, he's nice too. And just like overall community members, keeping me eager to kind of wanting to prove my times and that. And it was, hey, it felt good. Polish, that's another fellow. Um, you know, but like, man, I cannot get over when I met Rob and Charles. That was awesome. That's probably going to be long, story. It could be for another video. I want to get back into making videos. But like, man, Rob and Charles, like that was crazy. Like I went to Montreal by myself, biggest city that I've ever spent like a considerable amount of time in. At up to that point was Corner Brook, which is like probably 25,000, 30,000 the most. Then you go to Montreal, where like, man, like how many people is in Montreal? 4 million, or that 2 million, 4 million, or something crazy. So I get on the plane in Deer Lake, and I leave, and like this is in the nighttime, and like I'm gonna get in Montreal when when it when it's early in the morning. So I get on the plane, and like it's cold going over the Atlantic because I'm from Newfoundland, which is an island, but you're still same country going to Montreal, just in Quebec. Man, I come from a town with 200 people. Montreal is a million times that. Legit, probably. No, pardon my math, Quantum. A fair bit larger. Um, and like just as we're coming in over Montreal, is breaking dawn, and like I'm looking out the window for one. I see planes flying. I'm like, what the hell is this? And then I look down, and I see it all. This like this friggin' lights and everything. Dude, I think that all this is different towns. No, 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 no. This is all Montreal, one city, and I'm like starting to get overwhelmed. I'm like, ooh, and yeah. Anyways, I got off the plane, and I Went into the Montreal airport, and I traveled by myself too. That was fucking crazy. Can't believe I did that. Anyways, went to get my luggage, um, got that, and I went to the subway in the airport, not the train, the restaurant. We gotta keep. I'm Dr. Mario, right? But I did go on the Montreal subway with Charles, and that was awesome. I would do that again. But no, I comes out of the Montreal airport legit, and I'm looking around and like there's buildings everywhere that I'm never used to seeing before. And you got buses stopping and going. You got Ubers coming and going. You got cabs coming and going. You got people coming and going. And I'm like, where do I go? I can't speak French. I can barely read the signs. I was never exposed to French in my life. So, Google Translate, Google Maps, there's a bus right there. I start walking right out of the Pierre Elliott Trudeau Airport, and I hop on a random bus that I don't know where it's going to. I punch in my hotel on my GPS, gone. And like I'm riding on this bus alone, and I'm in Montreal. It's not scary per se, it's just so surreal, and I can't even believe that I'm doing this. And I can't even believe that this place exists. That's how kind of sheltered I am from everything, or how little world experience I have at this point. And it's like, you know, what the heck have I got myself? Complete culture shock. This is like, forget culture shock. This is like fucking universe shock, man. Like, is this Andromeda? And I mean, no, like, I would keep an eye on the phone, right? And so every time that the bus would go, it would be okay. It's getting closer and closer and closer to the oh my sweet God, closer and closer and closer to the hotel. Closer, closer, closer. Another stop. Closer, closer. Anyway, it stopped. Once it stopped, and it started to get further and further, and further. I said, "Okay, I'm getting off." So I get off, and I start walking it, man. I'm walking down the streets of Montreal just by myself. It's like fucking. It's before noon. It's like 8 o'clock in the morning, and like I know where I'm going, but like I'm more or less just walking around to explore. I see graffiti everywhere, and I'm like, man, this is crazy. Like my neck is cracked off looking up at these buildings because, mind you, I'm not used to tall buildings at all. The tallest building in my town is the Water Tower, which is pretty tall, but nothing like this. And I mean, like shadows in the middle of the day, and it's like, whoa. But no, it's just insane to me how different this place is. But I love it. And so, yeah, eventually I find a hotel, but everything, but I don't have a credit card. I'm like, I can pay you in cash. And they said, no, get the hell out of here. Uh, Luckily, the place right across the street accepted cash, and was able to get a room there. Mind you, it was a dive. You can ask Rob. It was, man, that place was a dive, man. But it was shelter, and hey, it worked. Um, it was a room. It was all I needed, and that was that. You know, I remember turning on the TV. They had their Canadian channels there. It was like Montreal Hotel cable TV or something, and it was like, watching Schitt's Creek on the freaking CBC, and it was awesome. Um, it was definitely a different experience, so I'll give you that. Um, I would go down to McDonald's, and like it's a 24-hour McDonald's within walking distance, and I'm like, yo, this is so novel to me because um, closest McDonald's to where I live is like an hour away, and it's like, wow. So that's something I could not believe. This whole trip was something I could not believe. I know that I keep using that word every time I reference this trip, but no. Eventually, I met Charles. He was the first. Mario Kart player that I ever met, and like I know he's coming. He knows, he came to the hotel, met me, and like we both know each other is there. But it's so surreal at the same time. It's like it's like wow, I'm really gonna meet this guy. Like I can't wait. I even called Abel prior because I didn't know. Like I didn't know how this was gonna go. And like you hear stories of like, meeting people online and stuff like that. And it's like is this like a real thing? Is over exaggerated? I wasn't scared of Charles or Rob. I just had my mind swirling. But no, I called Abel. I was like, dude, in all your times of meeting people from the internet, have you ever really had any bad encounters, like, or anything like that? And he was like, no, no, not really. Like, I think it's just a normal thing for you to go through. If it's, we really had a level-headed conversation about it, and so thank you to Abel. You know, it was awesome. I met Charles, um, who is awesome, and like, the dude is just so chill. Like, we just went out and he pretty much showed me around Montreal. We went on the subway together. That night with him was just awesome, man. Like, he made me feel so welcome. Um, definitely, definitely, definitely want to return the favor sometime. Because it felt like a true lifelong friend that I never met, sort of thing, and it could not have went any better. You know, did not have a negative experience with either of them, Charles or Rob, and I was like, yes. Like I remember three of us in the car, man. It was just awesome. Like just us driving down the streets or the big highway in Montreal, and I tell you, like my head was going everywhere because I'm not used to seeing stuff like that. The two of them, they're from cities, so like this is just normal shit. And like I vividly remember this. We were driving, and this fucking street bike comes in between us because you can split lanes in Quebec. You know, you can't do that in Newfoundland because literally the Trans Canada Highway in Newfoundland is just one lane one way, one lane the other way through. It's just trees, and that's most of, obviously you have passing lanes in that too, but that's mostly what it is from all the way through St. John's to Port aux Basques. Um, and they split lanes, and I was like, what the hell is that? Like, it's like a roller coaster, but you're in person, and it's like so much stimuli, I guess. The amount of stimuli that went through me, like it was just like, man, it was good though, because the two of them were there to keep me in check. You know, me and Rob went to see Korn in the Bell Center, and that was awesome. And I got the chance to like shoot shit with him in the hotel or in the stadium. That was awesome, man. Just me and him just talking like through stuff like that was awesome. Like he showed me his trip to Svalbard and that, and talking about like his personal life and that. But after that concert, me and Rob got out of the Bell Center and we decided, hey, let's just walk back to the hotel. And so we did in Montreal at about 12 o'clock at night. And we didn't care. A lot of the part I didn't care is because I'm not nervous in the streets at night because I never had to be. I grew up in a very safe community. Obviously, Montreal is very different than Hawaii. Um, but fortunately, we didn't encounter anything bad. Um, but man, the deep conversation that me and Rob had is one that I'll probably never forget because it was so awesome. The two of us had such a high respect for each other and had a very similar level of interest in each other's different perspectives that it was just something that I will never really forget. Like, the two of them made me feel so valued and so respected and they took me seriously in the real world. That was something that I had been looking for years, I feel. And I'm just realizing this as I'm saying it, but that's, you know, they gave me so much more than they would ever think. Because I knew that I was somebody to those people. And like I owe it to them too, because now that I'm the number one non-PRB champion, I'm a representation now for them. As the country of Canada is now number one in Mario Kart DS. Um, so to the two of them, I give them the biggest salute. I would more than be happy for them to come to Newfoundland and be a chauffeur for them and return that hospitality, because Charles, especially because he opened up his own home, and now I'm not going to get into where he lives and nothing like that, obviously, but you get the gist of it, you know. Um, but other than that, like, yeah, after Montreal and all that, I'm trying to go back chronologically here. No, within the last year, the summer of kart, like, man, it was just awesome. Um, yeah, the summer of kart turned into the year of kart, you know, and like I would grind and get into moods and be like, yeah, let's do this or whatever, and like I can do this and I can do that and everything else. Some days I'd be like, I don't know. Other days I would really ponder and be like, is this all worth it? At the end of the day. But I knew that thought in the back of my head. It was like, I have so much time and effort invested into this that if you let this slip, you're just going to regret it for the rest of your life. And I was kind of trapping myself too, because the closer and closer I got, the more and more that held true. So I knew I had to see it through. Um, so I'm going to take myself back now to December of 2025. That was a rough month for me because my stepfather passed away on the 15th of December, just this past December. However, I shockingly took that very, very well, you know. I had a very strong support system, you know. Everybody took the time to reach out, check in, ask if I needed any help. I did not. I knew professionals existed. I took that route too. Like I said, I did not get through that alone. And here I am now. And I can talk about my stepfather and say that that man was everything to me throughout my whole life. I knew that man since I was 3 years old. And you could not ask for a better person to me, um, because, he taught me not to be materialistic and always to have fun no matter what, and just to be you. I guess I inherited a lot of those traits from him. And hats off to my stepfather, Merritt. He's a very great soul. I know that wherever he is now, he's doing awesome. So, hats off to you. Unfortunately, he didn't get to see me live this dream, but he was a big part of it. So, thank you so much. My great grandfather, he's still alive. He got to see me live the dream. And so, yeah, I'm really proud that a lot of people can feel that they had a hand and help me live my dream, because only one person gets to say that they are the non-PRB champion. And like, I knew that going into this, like coming into this grind for champion, like seriously, like, and I've always said that, you know, you can never take it away from me once I become champion. Like, yeah, you can beat me in like legit, but like, I will always go to the grave knowing that I was at least champion for one day. And I've said that in the past. You can take away all of the world records I've ever gotten. I came into this scene from day one wanting to become world champion. And I did. And if you took away all the world records, this is worth more than all those world records. The 54, the LC2, the Sky Gardens, the everything. This is what I wanted. The Mushroom Bridge, everything. This is what I wanted. I got to live my dream. My dream came true, and it's very selfish. And that's what I'm going to get into, because I sacrificed so much to get here. I'm talking like my teenage social life. That while went, that was when I went to Mario Kart. All those school nights that I stayed up late to play Mario Kart, to grind, all those extra times. The time that I neglected my family when I could have had an opportunity to, spend time with them, that all went away for Mario Kart. Friends, you know, that, took a strain because of Mario Kart. Relationships, that really took a strain because of Mario Kart. Career opportunities now into the because I'm 20 years old. Like, this is having a burden on that now too. That also took a toll. So, you once you really get into it, know this: no one is playing for second place. And how bad do you want it? And what are you willing to give up to get to this spot here? Because, you know, the sad reality is, from my perspective, it's only worth it if you actually do become champion. Like, if I were to sacrifice all and never become champion ultimately, I would say that was not worth it at all. As selfish and as sad as it is, to me, it's true. Because, I'm here now, and the chips on my shoulder, I feel like they're gone. Like, what is there left for me to do? And that's what a lot of people are left thinking now. It's like, Doc, you're champion. What else is there for you to do? I can go play PRB, which I eventually plan to do soon. But there's really nothing left that I've wanted off of my bucket list. This was the only real thing I wanted. Now I got it. I'm not going to retire because of it, but I'm definitely going to take a probably step in the back seat. I have a life. I have a job, a girlfriend. I have that to balance. This doesn't have to take the forefront because I've already achieved my goal, my lifelong, like the brass ring. It's here, and it's real. I want to savor it. I want to say thanks, everybody. I'm not done by any means. I just want to enjoy it, to be honest with you. Like, legit. yeah, to tie up the loose ends in that too. It's like, you know, my advice to any new carders coming in, you know, don't ever take the time that you spend with your fellow players for granted. Anytime that you want to go, say, to a meetup or something, and like say, because I remember Rob cut a couple of his college classes or whatever to meet us. Not cut like you know, skip class. Um, I think Lamps did in the PA meet. No, don't quote me. I'm sorry for putting out other people's business. Trust me. Um, but think of like it this way: you can get classes back. You're not going to get time with us with Mario Kart players and that back. Just think of it to yourself when you're sitting there on your ill deathbed with no other real things to worry about. When you look back and say, "Well, I'm really glad I stayed and did not go to that PA meet and went to those two classes that I probably could have just caught up on anyway." Or were you like, "Damn, all those things that happened at that PA meet, I wasn't even there myself, and I knows a lot of stuff that happened because I got news from Robert McKinnon." Yeah, no, like all the smashed TVs and that. No, those are memories that you're never gonna get back. So take every opportunity that you can to enjoy your community because I sacrificed a lot of that. That's stuff that I won't get back, but it's stuff that I can always go back to, right? Um, so stay in those voice calls an hour, like a 10 minutes, an hour later. Um, you know, organize little grinding sessions. I'm gonna rephrase that. Organize little playing, little gatherings online. It just sounds weirder everywhere. You know, you get what I'm saying. Um, but yeah, you know, don't take your community for granted because your community are your biggest cheerleaders. But like I said, I want to close it up too. Um, to my current girlfriend, you are the best thing that has ever happened to me, period. You met me at a very dark moment in my life, and if it wasn't for you, I would not be here. You know, you are the everlasting love that I will always have no matter what. I said, I love you unconditionally for the rest of my life, and I want to create a life with you. You are the greatest girl that I've ever met and that will ever be in my life, period. You're the only person that will ever be in my life. I want to spend countless memories with you, and you are the dream. You're the ultimate dream. You know, this Mario Kart thing does not come before you. You know, you matter so much to me. You're the best thing in my life that ever happened. Mario Kart is not the best thing that ever happened to me. It's my girlfriend. And I don't care. Who cares? Who cares? I care because I tell you what, companionship is something that everyone should have, regardless if that's a friend, a family member, anything. But there's also someone that I wanted to address too. Um, Actually, multiple people from, you know, things that happened in high school. Um, I never got closure on a lot of things from when I was in grade 12. Uh, if any of you ever stumble upon this, know that, you know, I'm still affected by things. Not gonna lie. Um, but you just learn how to live and move on. And I don't expect any closure from any of you people. I think that's pretty well established now. Um, my own closure is going to come within me, and I'm going to live with that. And the best closure is a peaceful, freeing life, and with a very bright future. So, yeah, my last point is this: I tie Mario Kart, the community, and everything into the world of professional wrestling. I've always said that. I always thought that. I feel like my story to becoming champion really mimics Jeff Hardy a lot. You know, Jeff Hardy, like the guy, off of the diving off the freaking ladders or whatever. I'm gonna tell you the backstory on that. Jeff Hardy was in WWE for years. Like, even from the get go, he was fan favorite because he used to jump off all that crazy stuff. He had just TLC matches with the Dudleys and Edge and Christian and all that. But he eventually became a singles like star because everyone loved him. They wanted to see Jeff Hardy, see what he could do as a singles star. So he got a push. Jeff Hardy ended up going through a lot of personal struggles. You could talk about drugs involved. That I can relate to that. You talk about like psychological things. I can relate to that too. And then you talk about being an underdog too, sort of thing. In like a lot of the big ruthless aggression era. You talking like Triple H, all those people, and then you got Jeff Hardy there, kind of added away. And I can relate to that too, because I'm going to tell you something straight up. Prior to when Taga came on the scene, I thought I was the next big thing. I thought, everyone's going to, look to me. And it was all ego driven. I'm not going to lie. Um, I think every part of my Mario Kart career has been somewhat ego driven. As sad as it is to say, it's true. But yeah, no. But like once Taga came along, because me and him were kind of those two like younger guys coming up in the scene. I always felt like I was in his shadow, and he would get all this community attention and that, and I'd be like, man, here I am, busting my ass every single week, doing it the old-fashioned way, doing it the hard way, and I'm not really getting recognized for it. I didn't complain, but it was something that was in the back of my mind, and it put a chip on my shoulder. You know, I can go weeks while posting little tiny increments of improvements on my YouTube channel. Taga comes, drops a bomb, leaves for months, and then everyone is like, oh my god. And it's like, you know, I guess, slow and steady catches up to the race. But yeah. No, like I hold no ill will against Taga, like now. Um, like I've matured and I've grown out of that. Like the man is in a class of his own. He can do whatever he wants in this game, and I know that. But like other than that, yeah. Back to Jeff Hardy. It all culminated into a match at Armageddon 2009. It was Jeff Hardy versus Triple H, the champion, which is David, and Edge, which you can either interpret as being Beta or Taga. I'd like to interpret Taga, the younger guy upcoming too. You also have Jeff Hardy, who's been through it all. You name it. Like he even had his house burned down too. And so yeah, went through all this addiction stuff and that, and now he's here in a championship match with Triple H and Edge. And so the match is going crazy, and eventually at the end, I think Triple H gives Edge a pedigree, and then because Jeff Hardy is out at this point, and so he's going in for the cover, Jeff comes up on the top rope and these swantons onto Triple H. The champion pins him. 1, 2, 3. The crowd goes crazy because this is the first time that he's won the WWE World Championship. So he's number one after going through overcoming so much, and legit everything happens. Boom, boom, everyone's flying everywhere, and legit, it's crazy and it's so inspirational. Like, it just gives me goosebumps, man. And like, he literally grabs a chair, throws it on the canvas or whatever, and you can't write a better story than that. And legit, when I was watching that, thinking of me and what I had to go through, no more words. That's Jeff Hardy's theme song, No More Words, and that's legit Return to Close. So, that's all I gotta say. Thank you, and yeah, no more words.